Modern coastal architecture is a formula. It is something that can be replicated and reconstructed regardless of the starting point. That's exactly what I wish to show you guys today. It doesn't matter what your starting canvas is. For instance, this project was a modern contemporary look for the elevation. It was easily transformed into a modern coastal masterpiece. So let's break it down with real-world examples and real-world products. We're going to break it down into 3 different categories: colors, claddings, and of course, features. Now let's start with colors. Of course, modern coastal colors are generally on the lighter, vibrant side of the spectrum. The base color is always a white, but it is a warm white. We're not looking for anything excessive or too bright. If we push towards the vivid whites in the jewel-like range, we're going to get excessive glare on our project. So we want to be looking towards the terrace whites and the neutral whites of the jewel-like range that don't push too far into the yellow. If you go too yellow, then they'll start to look dirty rather than the clean, crisp, modern coastal look we're going for. The whites are typically incorporated into rendered products such as rock coat or master wall, and of course onto the claddings, but we'll get to them a little bit later. To ensure the modern coastal look is achieved with the color spectrums, we also need to introduce a light oak timber, or any light timber available in the area. Most of the time, if it's modern coastal, it's by the ocean. So when we're using timbers, we can definitely use natural timbers, just noting that they're going to have to be maintained, resanded and revarnished almost yearly, depending on how harsh your coastal conditions are. Otherwise, we can look into the aluminium range, but we'll talk more about this again a little bit later in this video. To perfectly execute the modern coastal look, we need to add a dark accent color. Now, the dark accent color typically is a monument or a basalt or any color in the black spectrum. So this is typically used for our window frames, our fixtures and our fittings inside the house, our door handles, etc. It is the smaller accents on the project to accentuate the darker colors. Now, personally, I much prefer a gunmetal color in the modern coastal look than a pure black. So some people may opt to go for an extreme vivid white and an extreme night sky black, which is a harsh juxtaposition in a modern coastal look. Instead, we really want that neutral white, that terrace white, paired with a gunmetal. Now, that most likely means going to a monument or a basalt in your window frames, for example, which is a lighter shade of black rather than that extreme night sky. To finish off the colors, it is not really a color. We're looking to add some sort of natural textures, which brings us into our cladding section. One of the most important elements of a modern coastal home is, of course, the split face stonework. Now, if the budget allows, you can go for full stacked stone, but split face stonework is more common in Australia, especially when it is a challenging site or a small site like the duplex in the video behind me. One of my personal favorites for modern coastal architecture is Eco Outdoors Bodega stone. Now, if you pair this with a white grout, it is incredibly complementary to the overall scheme. The white grout complements back to, of course, our terrace and neutral whites of the render. The natural stone complements those lighter timber oaks, and it all times perfectly together. Of course, natural stone has dark black pigmentations, which then, of course, ties in to our window frames and our accents. So overall, each of these elements perfectly contributes to the overall vibe of modern coastal architecture. The stone makes up only one small portion of the exterior claddings. The major component in exterior claddings is, of course, a rendered product. Now, if you're working with timber frame, like most of us do in Australia, especially in the south of Western Australia, then we're looking at rendered products that suit the timber framing. Most of the time, for me personally, it is a master wall product, which is a foam product adhered to the timber frame and then rendered over. It has lasted the test of time. It is an incredible product for our Australian coastline, and it is something that just simply works. If you've ever looked into master wall, it is a very simple product to install. It is a relatively simple product to render out. It ends up looking exactly the same as rendered brickwork, but the benefit is master wall has partnered with Stowe, which is one of the best rendering systems and painting systems in the world, thus allowing for a premium finish every single time. Now, a modern coastal home is never complete without some form of fibre cement sheeting or weatherboard. In Australia, that is James Hardie. James Hardie is the leader in weatherboard and the modern coastal look. Now, depending on the orientation and the configuration you're looking for, you're most likely going to be looking at the linear products, the oblique products, or even the axon range. For me personally, when it comes to modern coastal, we're trying to take away that shiplap look. And more often than not, when we have vertical timber cladding downstairs, we need a horizontal breakline above. So that's why I generally opt for something like the oblique range, which can be installed either horizontally or vertically, as opposed to axon, which can only be installed vertically. Oblique and axon may look extremely similar, but there are some key differences here. Regardless of the fact, James Hardie's fiber cement sheeting is the way to go for a modern coastal look. To finish us off, there are some incredible features that must be introduced into any modern coastal design. Of course, the first is planter boxes. Planter boxes are making a wave in all modern architecture. It doesn't matter if it's modern contemporary or modern coastal. Cascading planters incorporated into the elevation are one of the biggest trends right now moving into 2025. So that's why in this modern coastal design, there is exactly that. There is a beautiful curved planter box right on the front elevation. The next feature we want to be looking at is, of course, the garage door. On smaller lots especially, the garage takes up a significant amount of the land. In this scenario, it's something like 60%, which is probably more so than it really should. So to combat this, a secret garage door is essential. B&D doors have started doing their own clad match, tower doors do some incredible work here in Western Australia, so the options are relatively endless at the moment. But secret garage doors can truly elevate any home from basic, boring, to architectural and minimal. If we can incorporate some curves in the edges of the planters and the garage, that once again adds to the softness of the modern coastal look. As we start to look at the more intricate features, arbors are becoming one of the most desired and most requested elements in a modern coastal design. Arbors can be incorporated as part of the entry feature, they can be incorporated as part of an eave structure, they can be incorporated basically anywhere. But a nice light timber arbor somewhere is going to be the perfect addition to any modern coastal home. Now, we briefly touched upon the two different materials, timber and aluminium, for these arbors. Of course, timber is just natural timber, defining the H series depending on the location and the use. However, if we're going into an aluminium look, then we're probably steering towards knotwood cladding. And yes, knotwood, K-N-O-T, knot as in the knot in the wood. Knotwood is an aluminium product. It is aluminium profiled and then finished with a timber look veneer. It isn't always timber, it can be colored as well. So if you look at, for instance, Joe Adset's Boomerang House, those white tubular profile screens at the front of the home is all knotwood, custom profiled, custom painted in white. However, most of the time it is a timber veneered product. And when I say veneer, I'm not talking the traditional sense of timber veneers, I am just talking about the lamination of the print on top of the aluminium. The knotwood aluminium profile is definitely my preferred. It is significantly lower maintenance. Yes, it's a larger upfront cost. However, you don't really want to be driving past a modern coastal home that is slowly deteriorated and faded. That beautiful timber that you installed at the start is starting to go grey and weathered and decrepit. So after a while, it is definitely not going to look as good as it did day one. Whereas with knotwood, it will always look incredible. The two last features of a modern coastal home are relatively simple. It is a coastal home, so of course we need to incorporate an outdoor shower somewhere. That is a simple tick box exercise. And last but not least, it is coming more and more into fashion of decorative window grids. Now, traditionally on architectural homes, we have massive panels of glazing, uninterrupted as much as we physically can. However, with modern coastal homes, especially where there is no view, so for example the front door, the front windows, things like that, we can start introducing decorative grids or structural grids, so columns and transoms within the window profile itself. This starts to give the home a little bit more historical character and ties it in to the overall modern coastal look that we're truly looking for. And that's it. That is the formula that you need to follow to be able to replicate a modern coastal design regardless of the starting point. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you smash that subscribe button down below. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment. But like always, I'll see you next Monday.